All right, we're live. Welcome back, everybody. Once again, my name is David Adam Kurz, and I'm a host of the Veteran Wealth Podcast. And I'm here with Dr. Ann James, who's going to be talking to us about financial freedom, some of the things that we bring to the table in the Veterans Wealth Podcast. You know, it's an amazing opportunity for us to send a message to veterans who are looking for financial freedom, to veterans who are looking to do what's my next step? Where do I go from here kind of situation and mindset. And also to our civilians out there who are listening to this, believe it or not, because they want to know more about how they can better help veterans. And so I appreciate all of you for tuning in on a consistent basis. Dr. James, thank you for doing this with me. What do I call you, Dr. James? And what are we doing here?
You can call me Dr. Ann. It's all good.
All right, I like Dr. Ann. I like Dr. Ann. All right, so let me break it down for our folks out here. Dr. Ann is United States Air Force captain retired. She's doing some financial coaching now, and she wants to talk to us about financial preparation, having a battle plan, and money mindset. Dr. Ann, tell me about your military career. Talk to our vets about why you joined, how long you were in, what'd you do while you were in, and why'd you get out?
Yeah, well, first, David, thank you once again for having me here, getting me in front of your audience. I really, truly appreciate it.
It's my honor.
Anytime that I can talk to my veterans about money, I'm in my happy place. But yeah, as you mentioned, I'm Dr. Ann James, retired Air Force. I enlisted in the Air Force straight out of high school, out of Monterey, California. Because as a product of a single parent household, I wanted money for college and to travel and stuff like that. So one of my older brothers, I should say, he joined the Air Force. So I went to visit him one summer and just knew it was for me. My stepfather prior to was Army. So I was like, I knew I wasn't going to do Army. Okay. So once I learned about, saw how my brother was living in the Air Force, I decided to enlist in the Air Force. And at that time, I was a personnel specialist. 12 years, I was stationed overseas, Italy, Germany. Actually in Italy was where I had my daughter, and my life forever changed.
Wow.
But that's when I decided that I would make the military a career, because I was going to get out. After 4 years, I was going to take my GI Bill and bounce. But once I, got divorced, and once I became a single parent myself, I knew that, it was no longer about me. So I figured if I was going to stay in, I might as well make the most of it. So I had my bachelor's at the time and decided to go ROTC, University of South Carolina, go Gamecocks.
There you go.
And earn my commission. And it was then that I became a financial officer. So I served 10 years as a financial officer. And after 21 years of service, I retired at the rank of 03E. And I'm very proud of that.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations and thank you for your service.
Thank
and
you.
And I do want to ask, so you retired, your transition from the Air Force. Now, I served, I joke around all the time. I served 9 years in the Marine Corps. And when I got out, I had a very difficult time transitioning, right? And I'm good with people overall, but man, did I not like people when I came out of the military. What was your transition like, and your adaptation, should I say, to the civilian world?
Yeah, you know what, man? My transition was a success, and I say that because once I decided I was going to stay in, I transitioned in my mind from that point. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
I knew that the military, it was going to eventually come to an end. So I started, making sure my finances was in order. My career field was great because I was finance, and I also had personnel. So I know that, there's other career fields that aren't as transferable as mine was. But I knew that I was going to transition. So I went to school, got my master's, all types of certifications. And the biggest thing that I think that prepared me for that transition was I got my finances in order, paying off debt, over $300,000 in debt. You know what I'm saying? So that's what really made my transition easier, so to speak, because I was ready for it. You know what I mean? I wasn't one of those ones. I knew when I transitioned that I didn't want to go back to work the next day as a civilian doing the same military type job. I knew that I didn't want no one telling me what to do. So at that point, I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. So it's really, I was prepared for it. I was ready. So
Nice.
that was my transition. And I know it's
That's
not for
awesome.
everybody, but it can be. It's really about that preparation, as much as possible, as early as possible, because a transition out of the military is inevitable.
Yes. And so I'm glad that you brought that up. And I think we're going to have a great conversation. And I hope to God that we have some active duty military personnel listening right now, because
Yeah.
most active duty military personnel are getting out of service with a huge debt. They've got credit card debt, car debt, new baby debt, like call it what you want. But even after 4 years, they go to PX and they get that credit card at the PX, and then they go ham in the PX, and then they come back and they're $30,000 dead, nothing to show for it,
Yeah.
and then some. And thank God, look, when I was in, they were paying. When I first joined, they were paying 50% of your education, and I couldn't do that. Right. And then they said, okay, well, we'll pay 75% of your education, and that transition. And even with those numbers, I was a young E2, E3, E4 in the Marine Corps with a wife and a child. By the time I was a corporal, I had 2 children. There was no way that I could afford anything else but to feed them. And I'm sure and most people don't know this, and it probably still is the case. If you're an E3, E4 in the military, you're living under poverty level, right? Yeah. And so a lot of people don't realize that. They don't know that. They try to pitch you on the insurance and this and that, blah, blah, free medical, and nothing's free, my friend. We work hard for it. And
okay.
So, yeah. And so, it wasn't until school was 100% paid for when they announced that as if you were active duty, they were going to do 100%. When they said that, I was like, sign me up, And thank God, because you said you had a transferable career. Not a lot of military people do, right?
Exactly.
And so if you are pre-military, like you're in MEPS right now, and your recruiter's telling you infantry is the way to go, stop listening to that bullshit and go do something that you could transition into. I was a weapons technician and a shooting coach in the Marine Corps. So I worked in an armory and I worked on a range, right? And when I got out, I remember my ex-father-in-law looking at me and saying, okay, what are you going to do? And I said, well, it's either the police department, the Bloods, or the Crips. That's all I got. So, that's all I got. Those are the only ones that need my skills, I said, since I'm not trying to get chased by the police, let me try them out first.
Yes.
And thank God for one reason or another, we won't get into that crazy story, but I decided not to go the police route, and I ended up in the real estate route, and I ended up doing sales, and I fell in love with sales, and tie falling in love with real estate and falling in love with sales together. I found success in that. Yeah. And one of the larger parts was I didn't find success until I was capable of connecting with people again. And that's a big one for a lot of vets. And I bring vets onto this show that talk about the dealing with PTSD and still having to force themselves through that, and not being able to connect at a high level, but still trying to find success. So it's amazing that, you had the foresight to say, I'm going to be a financial officer, and I'm going to go to school, and I'm going to earn a degree. And when I transition, it's going to be easier for me because I'll just stay in the financial field. So what are you doing now, Dr. Ann?
Yeah, well, right now is similar to yourself. I took my love of finances and combined it with my love of working with veterans, specifically women veterans, right? To help them regain control and conquer the battle over their finances. So as an accredited financial counselor, I started my own financial coaching business called Financial Freedom Battle Buddies. And basically, I walk my, my fellow veterans through a plan. And that's the thing, right? A lot of times we're not taught money in school, or we're not taught money at home, that type stuff. So actually teaching someone, or being there for them, I should say, and creating a plan that they can live with, not what Ann can live with. It's based off of their livelihood and their goals and what they see for their future without feeling deprived, so that they can, have financial freedom for them, whatever that means, right? We hear that terms a lot of time, financial freedom. Well, it has a different definition for everybody. For me, it means the ability to having that mindset to do what I want, when I want, without ever worrying about money, right? But that may not be the case for someone else. So I help my clients on that journey, because I do believe that it's a journey, not a destination that you wake up to, yo, I'm here, type stuff. It's a journey.
I got money.
I got mine, right? To help them on that journey to reach whatever definition of financial freedom that they have. So that's really what I'm doing now. One-on-one, I have some courses coming out, and I'm about to start working with something that's near and dear to me called the Wounded Warrior Project, working with veterans in that program.
That's
to
amazing.
Help them in their caregiver, their spouses, or whoever is helping them with their finances. Because like you said, David, when we transition, a lot of times, if you get, that VA, right, filing our claim and that type of stuff, and we know how fast that goes, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's immediate. It's overnight.
It's overnight, right? So a lot of times, a lot of veterans can find themselves after waiting years, getting that claim, getting checks, 6-figure checks.
Yep.
And it's like, don't blow that money.
Yep. And then you got the a veteran driving around in BMW they pay cash for.
Hey, okay. And so if I can just get my hands on them beforehand,
and very early on, and I'm glad you're saying that, because this is why we do this, right? This is why we do this. I had the pitfalls. I won't lie to you. I was young. I'm a Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx. All right. Okay. So, when I joined the military, I always tell people I wasn't raised with shit. I ain't had shit, and I left with shit, And so when I left the Marine Corps, I left with debt. I had been divorced of my ex-wife and my 2 children. And so not only did I have debt, but I had this massive child support that I had to take care of, because I had to take care of my babies. And now I'm like, what do I do? Where do I go? What's going to happen? And I remember the first job I got that I was making a 6-figure check, where I said I got into sales. And first thing I did, go rent me a penthouse apartment in downtown Miami. I got me a Cadillac CTSV, 600 horsepower, 6-speed. I was in love with my life, and then the market changed and exploded. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel it until a year after the real estate market felt it, and, but when I felt it, and I'll never forget those losses and those things that happen, and I was, I tell my wife, I said, look, we could buy a nice car now, or we could get that Rolls later when things are really beautiful, and so, and we talk about these things all the time. And then as you grow older, I think that mindset shifts, right? Because now, I love a Rolls Royce, don't get me wrong, and I would love to own one, but you know what I'd much rather have? A beach house in Puerto Rico. And
paid for by somebody else every month.
Yes, okay. Man. Yes. And and one day, I tell my wife, one day when I decide to take a step back, take it a little easier. I don't want to call it retirement, but take a step back, take it a little bit easier. I want to be able to walk out. I got a sequence to what I want, from my living room to the sliding door, past the pool, on the beach. Like that's,
I love it.
And it has to be that way. It has to be that way. There's no other way that it can be for what we're trying to do. So I love that you're talking about financial freedom and goals and such. So let's start with the first topic that you really wanted to dive into, which was preparing for transition. Go for it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, whether you're still in and you're preparing for transition, or you're newly transitioned out preparing for civilian life, what does that look like to you? Like you said, you just explained a vivid picture of your beach place in Puerto Rico. You know what your why is, what's important to you, right? So That's what I always tell my clients. That's where we start. What's important to you? Why is it important for you to get out of debt, right? Anybody can get out of debt, but can you stay out?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you stay out? And what's driving you? Because of the fact that it's a journey, what's going to get you over those long, nights, because it may not happen overnight. It may take years. You can get into debt overnight, but it may take you a while to get out of debt. So Absolutely. What's driving you to continue on? Like for me, it was my daughter. Like I said, when I got divorced, my daughter, I found out she was special needs. I had an autistic child. So it's like, okay, no matter what I do, I don't want my past financial mistakes to hinder my daughter's future. So
Right.
that is why I do what I do, right? So it's beyond the numbers, right? You can Google a budget. It's beyond the numbers. But what's really the heart of the matter, the heart behind the numbers that's going to drive you to, help you to prepare. So that's really where I start with individuals to determine what drives them towards their preparation. And once they determine that, come up with a plan that works for you, that's sustainable, right?
Right.
You can't, oh, I'm never going to eat out, or, oh, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. It's like with weight loss, right? You can't, if you can't sustain it, then why even bother?
Right.
So you have to do something that's, that you can sustain in the long run, but you have to make sacrifices, right? You can't continue to live the same old life and think it's going to change.
Yep.
Right. So you have to, I'm not saying you got to stop doing things. You might have to, you can cut back, so that you can live the life that you want in the future, by making changes here today, so that's really, that's really, the main gist of it all at the end of the day.
That's awesome because, I don't think people realize how difficult it is to figure out why. That's one thing. Yeah. It's not a very easy thing to figure out, and the other part is understanding that the why is fluid, right? That it does change over time, because I promise you, my 25-year-old why is not my 44-year-old why. And more than likely when I'm 55, it's not going to be the same either. And well, who knows? When I'm 55, I'm trying to be on that beach. So, but my wife's going to be waking up tomorrow again and going swimming in the ocean,
Yes.
But I think, it's a difficult task for people to understand. So talk to me about, and you hyphenated it. You said battle plan. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, that's just, a name, when people hear the name budget, they're like, oh, no, she's going to tell me what I can do, I cannot do. And because I specifically mainly work with veterans, to me, it can be a battle, right? Like, so who's your enemy? Is it that car payment? Is it MasterCard? Yeah. Is it Visa? Is it those student loans? Right. So come up with a plan to go to battle against your debt. So it's just a, play on words or whatever have you. But yeah, we start out by looking at, okay, what all you're bringing in, all, whether it's, as we said, someone that's still serving, you have the security of that paycheck, right? So on the 1st and the 15th, or once you've already transitioned out, like myself, you have a retirement check. Like myself, if you have that VA disability or your civilian job or whatever have you, you have to know your starting point, where you're starting at, how much you got coming in. Then we look at where the money is going. That's the tedious part. People, those little cuts, like people don't realize, how much you're eating out, or that cable bill, or that car insurance. It's those little things that you can make adjustment to, so that if you have a plan in place for that, whatever debt that you have, and it don't even have to be about debt. I have clients that come to me that don't have debt, but they don't know how to save, right? Because they spending it as quick as they get it. So it's a plan for whatever it is for your money in your life, whether it's your, debt, whether it's savings, whether it's college, whatever have you. But I want to point something out so that your viewers understand. As a financial coach, I mainly deal with personal finances, right? Whether you're talking about debt and savings. Now, I like to say I lay that foundation. So once you have those things in place, you want to do more advanced things like investing in real estate. That's when I have partnerships where I can reach out and say, hey, I got this friend over here. They can help you with Roth IRAs. Or that type of stuff. Or I got David over here. He's a guru about real estate. Or I got Brandon. He knows about taxes. That's not my wheelhouse, right? My wheelhouse is the personal finances and stuff like that. But you have to have that foundation before you can start all these fancy things with real estate. Am I in real estate? Yeah, but I got that solid foundation.
Right.
So those are the type of things that we look at with the battle plan.
I like that. I like that you talk about foundation. I talk about that in my books with business, where we discuss, you can't build a business on sandy ground, right? Like you've got to have a solid foundation of what it is that you're putting together, and that foundation comes from you and your development and systems and so forth and so on. And I would venture to say that that's no different in kind of setting the foundation of your financial plan and what you're going to do with your funds, their inbound funds and outbound funds, right?
Yeah.
And then the advancement is what? Investing in stock, investing in other things. You know, how many veterans do you see have multiple streams of revenue?
Man, I mean, it can be, if you're talking about, like I said, fortunate like myself, whether you have your retirement pay and then you have your VA, right? But say if you have those individuals that didn't retire, or you don't have, you know, the VA, you haven't filed for your disability claim because you think that you only served 4 years. That's another story. Don't get me started. But
no, listen, I'm a victim of that. I'm a victim of that. Okay. My best friend finally sat me down after, I don't know, we've been friends like 12 years, sat me down.
Yeah.
He goes, Dave, stop being a fucking idiot. Excuse my language, but you know, he's like, stop being an idiot, dude. He's like, you served 9 years. I guarantee something's wrong with you.
Something's wrong with you. It may not be hourly. That's the thing. People may not think, oh, that's physical, or I didn't deploy. I don't give a dang if you deployed or not. You know, if you serve, apply for it. But like I said, back to your question, because you know we could talk about that's another podcast episode, right?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, if you don't have those, you know, multiple streams of income like that I just mentioned, a lot of veterans don't have that. They're living paycheck to paycheck. You know, what's an additional source of income? Where no, I learned that long time ago. I gotta have multiple streams of income. It goes back to don't put all your eggs in one basket. But unfortunately, a lot of our veterans, you know, it's not taught, you know, like I said, in school or at home or in the military. That's one thing that I don't think that the military does very well, is to prepare us financially, right? They send us to boot camp to get acclimated with the military. You know, you go to these transition assistance briefings to get ready to get out, and how to do interviews and how to dress, you know, that type of stuff, which is important. But no, it needs to be more financial education throughout those different milestones of your time in service, because you never know. A transition can be unplanned, right?
Yep.
It can happen at any time. So, you know, financial education, financial literacy definitely could be something that can be improved on while you're still in the military, and also in the civilian sector is why I'm doing what I'm doing. So, yeah.
Listen, you know, for everyone listening out there, and those of you that are tuning in, whenever you tune in, you got to check out Dr. Ant, because this is something that's so important. I'll tell you, you know, another great friend of mine, Master Gunnery Sergeant Bartholomew Lumsey, man, amazing guy. Just amazing. We served together. He was a staff sergeant. I was a sergeant at the time. And I got out. He finished 34 years, 4 years as an Army Ranger, 30 years as a Marine Corps Recon, and then became an armor. Yep. He's got metal hips, metal knees, metal ankles. You know, he's got all the goodness gracious. He served as much as he could possibly do for our country. And I'll tell you, you know, I don't know how many times he was deployed and et cetera, but, you know, he's definitely got a chest full of shiny stuff. And he retired a few years ago, and I hadn't heard from him in a while, you know. And so here's somebody who was smart about his stuff. He started financial planning while he was in, you know, he knew exactly how many years he needed to put in to get his 100% and how much money he wanted to make. So like he said, I can't retire at 30 years because I need to surpass that 34-year mark to be at the paycheck I want to be at. So I'm getting 100% of that. And then he even went on to, you know, of course, he's got his disabilities, which he's at 100% for sure. You know, so he's got 100% disability, 100% retirement as a Master Gunnery Sergeant, as an E9, right? And then 34 years in, and I don't know what other investments he did. I'm sure he got into the retirement plan, the extra retirement plan that the military was offering, and so forth and so on. But you know what he does? He's single. And when he got out the Marine Corps, he got out in Hawaii, and he decided that for the next 5 years, he was going to live in a different country in South America, like every 6 or 8 months or whatever, he's moving around South America. So, I shot him a message. We were headed to Hawaii, and I was like, "Hey, man, I haven't heard from you in Hawaii. Are you still in Hawaii? I would love to see you." He's like, "No, man, I'm in Colombia now, and I'm on my way. I'm on my way to the southern tip, and
Wow.
and I'm sure when he's done with that, he's probably going to continue to travel because why not?
Why
He's
not?
completely financially free, completely capable, and young. If
Okay.
you think about it, he joined the Marine Corps when he was 17, 18 years old, or the Army when he was 17, 18 years old, did 4 years there, went straight to the Marine Corps. And so if he did 34 years at 18, come on, he's a
Yeah.
young guy.
Still
He's a
young.
young guy. He's a
Yeah.
young guy. He's probably in his late 40s right now. And he's living the dream, traveling the whole world and with a guaranteed check coming in every
Yeah.
single month,
Yeah.
and that's enormous. And I think for those of you that are tuning in right now and listening, if you are in the military and you feel like it's not time to plan yet, you're wrong. You
You're
should be
wrong.
planning from exiting boot camp. You should be having a plan of attack because, like Dr. Ann said, sometimes that separation of the military is medically forced, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you never know what's going to happen to you. Okay, you don't have to deploy to have a medical reason. You could. I mean, I rappelled out of a helicopter in a training exercise, and my buckle broke, and I hit the water. And my right shoulder has never been the same again.
Wow.
So, and that's training at home in the United States. You know what I
There you
mean?
go.
And
Exactly.
so, and it just, there's so many things that can happen if you just got out, if you've been out for a while, if you've been out for 10 years and your financial shit is still not right, here's an opportunity. We're like opening wide open. Dr. Ann specifically works with veterans, puts a high priority on working with female veterans, and just wants to get you financially right. And once she does that, she'll refer you to somebody else to take it to the next level, right? And we'll drop a little diamond here outside of the financial wheelhouse of yours. If you haven't filed the VA claim yet, yeah, you better go get that done. You better
definitely
go get that done.
Yeah, because there's different agencies that can help.
And don't be like me. I waited years. I was one of those guys that got out. I went to go see about my shoulder. They gave me 0%, and I was like, "Oh, this bullshit. I ain't doing it no more." And then until my buddy sat me down, and he will bombard me with emails like, "Look at this, look at that, look at this, look at that," and finally I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna do it," and now we got an additional stream of income plus my real estate business. Plus I'm at a company called the XP, which allows for residual income through recruiting. So that's another stream, of income. And just whatever I could do. I read something once that said every millionaire just about has 7+ streams of income. So, I'm working on my 7, man.
Me too. Me too.
Well,
I
Dr.
think I'm
Ann,
about at number 5 or 6, so we almost there.
Yes. So let me ask you, how can I know you get, is it drandjames.com? That's your website, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
drandjames.com. And how can people find you on Instagram, social media, and stuff like that?
Yeah. Like you said, my website, drandjames.com. The same on Instagram at Dr. Ann James. Also on LinkedIn, Dr. Ann James. And on Facebook, it's just Ann James. Also, similar to yourself, I have a podcast called Freedom Battle Buddies of Color. And basically, that's where I highlight other women veterans of color. We talk about everything freedom, whether it's financial freedom, lifestyle freedom, career freedom, all of that, because that's what it's truly about, right? People say financial freedom. I like to say they really want the freedom that the finances can bring.
100%.
Right. So
100%.
we don't just talk about finances on the podcast, but yeah, so check me out. That's on Apple or Google or whatever have you. That's Freedom Battle Buddies of Color. But like you said, you can find me on my website as well.
Well, I'm gonna look that up and I'm gonna start subscribing to your stuff and check it out. And I will tell you, it's funny. I had a coach last year, and for the longest time, your why shifts, like we were talking about. Yeah. And she said, how do we find a why that doesn't shift? And I said, well, I don't know. You tell me. You're my coach, right? So we start going over it, and she helped me out. And honestly, we just got to freedom. Believe it or not, freedom was the only word that I could keep. I kept going back to. And I said, everything I do in my life is to provide some sort of freedom for something else, right? Yeah. So the freedom to be able to, go to Hawaii with my wife, the freedom to be able to, I'm in Puerto Rico this weekend with realtors and talking business and it's just the capability and the ability to do stuff like that, freedom to own whatever car I want, freedom to travel when we want, freedom to take my kids to Israel next year, wow. That's the kind of stuff that really gets me going. And I look at my wife and I go, I'm gonna retire you. I got it, because my wife works hard, man. She's a beast, And so I look at her and I see her sometimes at the desk and I go, man, no, we can't be like this. You can't be working from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And so, I told her all the time, I'm gonna retire you. I said to her the other day, and she's very good at what she does. She's a top producing loan officer. And I said to her the other day, I said, listen, when things really start jiving, would you quit and come work with me? And she goes, yeah, in a heartbeat. And I start laughing. She goes, so how long is this going to take?
Okay, like, don't be asking me nothing. Get my hopes up.
Yeah, I was like, damn woman, give me a chance, man.
I love it. I love it.
Man. I definitely couldn't have a better partner. I'll tell you that much. That's all right, Dr. Ant, thank you so much for doing this with me. It's a definite blessing to have you on the show. I appreciate what you're doing for veterans, what you're doing for women veterans. I love your podcast and its goal and position. Anything that I could ever do to help, you let me know.
I appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Take care.